Well, thank you so much, Brigitte, and good morning, everyone. It's wonderful to see everybody here. Bonjour tout le monde. And I just wanted to say how wonderful it is to be in British Columbia. The sun is shining, the water is absolutely gorgeous, and I can see why one of my daughters wants to remain in British Columbia after she finishes her work term. Um, in all seriousness, we are at a moment of profound geopolitical volatility and extraordinary economic transformation. And my objective here today is very straightforward. What I'd like to do is to set out Canada's foreign policy in this defining era, what it means concretely for growth, investment, and opportunity here in British Columbia. And let's start with the Prime Minister's Davos speech, in which he described a ruptured international order, one that requires countries like Canada to act with flexibility, align with trusted partners, and deliver results. And admittedly, these are complex ideas. The approach, as I will describe it, is based on principled pragmatism. Canada, first and foremost, will always stand with its long held values: respect for international law, human rights, environmental sustainability, reconciliation, gender equality, and the rules based order. But in a rapidly changing world, values must be matched with action. En ce moment, le Canada doit agir avec clarté, détermination, pragmatisme. And this pragmatism revolves around and, in fact, necessitates attracting investment and building resilient supply chains, something Brigitte and I have talked about many, many times. And the Government of Canada is well aware that capital is cautious in this world of uncertainty, that capital goes where there is clarity and certainty and speed and confidence. And that is exactly what we are working to deliver. Canada is already seeing some results. 12 trade agreements over the last 7 months across 4 continents, an investment commitment from the United Arab Emirates in major nation building projects. These are signals of confidence, and they create opportunity across the country, including here in British Columbia. And I want to take a moment to highlight and indeed focus on British Columbia in particular. BC isn't peripheral to this moment. The province, as you hear so often and as we readily acknowledge, is Canada's gateway to the Indo-Pacific, which is the fastest growing economic region in the world, home to 4 billion people, generating roughly $50 trillion in economic activity. 5 of Canada's top trading partners are in the Indo-Pacific region. 4 of British Columbia's top 5 are as well. And it is here in BC that Canada's engagement with the Indo-Pacific becomes real. Your connections, linguistic, cultural, and commercial, give Canada a unique advantage. And whenever I'm in the Indo-Pacific, I always highlight this fact. Moving to the commercial connections, it is your industries, from LNG and forestry to clean tech, biotech, and tourism, which position you to lead. And the opportunity is enormous. By 2030, the Indo-Pacific will represent 2/3 of the global middle class. By 2040, more than half of global GDP. This isn't a distant future, of course, it's already underway, and it aligns with what so many of you have already been saying. And in fact, it is the Board of Trade itself, the people right here in this room, under the leadership of a fantastic board and Brigitte's work, that highlights over $230 billion in major project opportunities in this project and the urgency required to realize them. Our role as the Government of Canada, and certainly through our work abroad, is to help do just that. We need to open markets. We cannot rest on previous statistics. We have to ensure that investment is de-risked, and we need to build trusted partnerships. And that's where the Minister of Foreign Affairs and our whole team plays a central role, because what we need to ensure is that our diplomacy works for the benefit of the domestic economy. This is a new type of foreign policy for this country. Everywhere I go with our diplomats abroad, I ask the same question. Are you advocating for Canadian businesses? Are you building connections that will ensure that Canadian businesses, Canadian pension funds, Canadians themselves can benefit? This is the era where foreign policy is tied to the success of the domestic economy. And part of that ensures that we are connecting with people like you, the folks in this room, the people who are doing the hard work on the ground to build strong economies locally and across the country. We all play a role, therefore, in ensuring that Canada is a stable, competitive destination for global capital. And we're advancing significant trade negotiations with major economies around the world. We're currently negotiating a comprehensive economic partnership agreement with India. We are working to ensure that there's an FTA with ASEAN by the end of 2026. We signed a free trade agreement with Indonesia last year. This all works to strengthen Canada's position as a reliable economic partner. Et nous sommes déterminés à diversifier nos échanges et à attirer des investissements qui renforcent notre prospérité à long terme. Now, I gotta say, in my conversations around the world, and this is 99% of the bilateral engagements that I am in, there is always a mention of the first LNG exports from Canada's west coast, which began, of course, last year, and which has put British Columbia and indeed Kitimat at the very center of diplomatic conversations around the world. The world wants what Canada has to offer. Our work diplomatically is to ensure that we connect the buyers to the sellers and to ensure that the domestic economy here in British Columbia and across this country benefits from that diplomatic work. That is the goal that we have in the Government of Canada, and we will be unrelenting in pursuing it. At the same time, what we're trying to do is to implement policy domestically that will ensure domestic economic growth and serve the benefits of the Canadian Armed Forces and the defense industry generally. And so I point there to our $82 billion in national defense, which has allowed us to reach NATO's 2% of GDP target, something that I spent years discussing prior to that announcement. We're investing $40 billion in NORAD. We're strengthening infrastructure, including trade corridors here in Western Canada, focusing on critical minerals, and ensuring that Canada's heightened position as an energy superpower is well recognized and utilized. The Davos speech, to go back to the Prime Minister's remarks in January, not only focuses on economic alliances, but acting with like minded countries, with middle powers, in order to advance Canada's values across the board. Look at the Nordic Five, the work that we're doing on Arctic sovereignty and security. That work is proceeding with a group of countries, a coalition that has formed in order to ensure that we're acting together on Arctic sovereignty, pushing NATO to ensure that its Arctic Sentry initiative has a permanent presence. It includes, as another example, the Coalition of the Willing, and ensuring that we are collectively supporting Ukraine in the short and the long term against the illegal and unjustifiable further invasion of Ukraine by Russia. Those are just two examples of coalitions that form and that Canada is very much invested in order to serve domestic interests and to act with like-minded countries. And to conclude what this all means on the economic front, on the defense and security front, and on the coalition building front, is that in this world, which is more uncertain, which is more competitive, which is more complex, Canada will lead. We will see the world as it is, not as we wish it to be alone. We will continue to believe that cooperation, partnership, and shared purpose are not weaknesses, but strengths. The measure of a country is not only what it achieves at home, it is how it shows up in the world, how it contributes to peace, how it ensures that cooperatively we are able to accomplish domestic objectives and international objectives as well. This is the role that Canada will play. This is our mission. This is our moment to lead, and British Columbia's moment to help lead the way. Thank you. Merci.